Hey everybody, this is Bill. I'm the salty old Marine. Today I want to talk about a topic that it's going to divide some people. I already know that. It's going to be a little controversial, and I don't apologize, okay? Some of you may be upset with me, and if that is the case, I wish you were not, but that's your call. So let's talk about it. What are we talking about? What I want to talk about today is character of discharge from military service. Now, most of us, perhaps the majority, received an honorable discharge. We enlisted in the military, we served, we did what we were supposed to do, and we received an honorable discharge and we got out. So for us, to file a VA disability claim or to seek VA health care, well, there's no impediments there. We provide our DD-214, it says honorable discharge on it, and away we go, right? That doesn't mean that disability claims are easy or that getting health care is easy. I don't mean to imply that, but it means one less roadblock for us. The question is, what about those veterans who have received, well, not honorable discharges? It's an interesting thing. It's a stigma, right? So we all have memories, perhaps, of people in the service who misbehaved, who did bad things, who got into trouble, who were shitbirds, for lack of a better term. I know a few who got what they used to call 6 and a kick, right? 6 months hard labor, 6 months forfeiture of pay, and a bad conduct discharge, or as we used to call it, a big chicken dinner, right? BCD. All right. A lot of us, well, not myself, I do have an honorable discharge, but a lot of us are ashamed to talk about that or to bring that up. We put that away. A lot of us were told when we received a other than honorable discharge that it's going to affect us for the rest of our lives. And in some cases it does for certain things, like getting background investigations and clearances for certain kinds of jobs and other things. But for other veterans, life just goes on as normal. The difference is, in many cases, they simply distance themselves from anything that could be available to them in terms of VA health and VA disabilities. And there are veterans who believe that that is correct, that they shouldn't have those things. But let's take another look at it. First of all, the VA is not the military. So let's make that very clear. The Veterans Administration is for veterans. It does follow what the military calls the discharge in terms of characterization, honorable discharge, and so on, but not as strictly as you might think. And this is very important. Now, what I'm going to talk about here is factual and not emotional. So if you've got a problem with a veteran who doesn't have an honorable discharge getting health care or even getting disability, I got nothing for you, because this is what's in the law, not your opinion, not how you feel about it. Hope it doesn't ruffle any feathers. I'm pretty sure it will. Let's see how it goes. All right. So let's talk about discharge categories, right? Of course, there is always the honorable discharge. The honorable discharge is always eligible. So if you meet every other criteria for VA healthcare and VA disability, that's no longer an impediment. That's not a roadblock in your way. Other types of discharge include general under honorable conditions, right? General under honorable. Those are the types of discharge that people sometimes get when they didn't serve their full contract or they had to get out for other reasons, hardship discharges and things like that. Maybe it's honorable, maybe it's general under honorable. So to the VA, that is typically considered eligible. So it's a case-by-case basis, but usually it is eligible. Now let's talk about other than honorable, or OTH. The VA considers every claim for health care and for disability on a case-by-case basis. They conduct what they call a character of service determination. Now, cases where the VA has granted disability or approved health care with an other than honorable discharge might include veterans who, for example, had more than one discharge. Maybe they got out and got back in, or they reenlisted, and their first discharge was in fact honorable. They may just consider that as acceptable. There are other reasons as well. Let's move on to some other types of discharges. There's also the bad conduct discharge, the big chicken dinner that I was talking about earlier. It does depend on whether or not it was issued by a special court-martial or a general court-martial. One of them may allow VA review, the special court. The general court typically does not allow VA review. Now, that doesn't mean it's the end of the road. Veterans can always request a discharge upgrade from the VA, but initially at least, special court-martial at least gets a review. General court-martial generally does not. Dishonorable discharges are almost always ineligible. So if a veteran managed to get a dishonorable discharge, chances are that they are in fact not eligible for health care or for benefits, unless of course they successfully get their discharge upgraded, which again is always a possibility, not a guarantee, but a possibility. So how does the VA decide this character of service determination? What's this all about? Basically, the VA is looking at why the discharge occurred. What are some disqualifying factors? Well, desertion is one, mutiny is another, spying is another, a general court-martial, conscientious objector refusal, being AWOL or UA for more than 120 days, but with some exceptions. But there's some mitigating factors as well, and the VA does consider these. For example, mental health conditions, illnesses, military sexual trauma, PTSD, and TBI, so traumatic brain injury, right? The VA recognizes that there are things that happen to veterans during their service that might end up causing them to have something other than an honorable discharge. So they take this into consideration when deciding whether or not to permit health care and or VA disability. Assuming that the VA doesn't see things the veteran's way when they do their character of service examination, veterans can always apply for a discharge upgrade with their branch's Discharge Review Board, the DRB, or the Board of Correction of Military Records, the BCMR. Keep in mind that DoD processes and VA processes are separate processes. The VA is not the Department of Defense, and the Department of Defense is not the VA. So here's what I want to leave you with. If you're a veteran and you're in need of health care or you want to file for VA disability, please do not self-disqualify. In other words, don't just decide that you're not eligible. Maybe you heard something. Maybe somebody told you something. Maybe they said something as you were going out the door, as you were leaving the military. You'll never get disability benefits. What do they know? None of them are experts, and nothing they said has any bearing whatsoever on your current condition. What I would suggest instead is that you go ahead and go through the process of applying and let the VA make the determination. Be prepared to back up the reason why you received an other than honorable or a bad conduct discharge. Understand that that's going to be a roadblock that you're going to have to get through, and you're going to have to explain the reasons. There may be good reasons, but let the VA decide that. Don't just lock yourself out. I understand it can be humiliating. I understand it can be embarrassing. It's not really something you want to talk about. I get it. But if you served and you were injured in the line of duty and you need health care, apply for health care. If you were injured in the line of duty and you're still suffering from that today and you need disability, apply for disability. Don't self-disqualify. Let the VA make the decision. And remember, there are roads to appeal if that doesn't work. So you can go back to the DoD and try to get that character of service upgraded. All right. I'm going to provide a link to the VA's discharge upgrade page where you can apply even if you're unsure. Again, I realize that this is a sore spot for a lot of veterans. There are many veterans who have honorable discharges who believe that those who do not have honorable discharges should not be getting VA disability or health care. I would advise you to try and have some empathy, to try and have some understanding, to try and walk a mile in someone else's shoes. You probably don't understand why they received the type of discharge that they received. Maybe they were shitbirds and got exactly what they deserved, and they should not have health care or disability, but that's for the VA to decide. Maybe they got a less than honorable discharge for reasons that you neither comprehend nor are any of your business or mine. So again, I just urge you, have some empathy for your fellow veterans. Leave it to the VA to decide how that should be handled. And if you are a veteran who is in need of health care or disability, don't self-disqualify. Let the VA make the decision and be prepared to back up the reasons why your discharge was not an honorable one. I hope this is helpful. I'm Bill. I am the Salty Old Marine. Please like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment. I will be interested in your comments, and I know there's going to be some strong ones. And as always, have a great day.